to lesson 13, performance. This is where it all starts to get really fun. During this lesson, we're going to take a look at how you present yourself on stage, how to use your body to communicate your story to your audience, and how to coordinate a streamlined performance that will leave them wanting more. Now, the following strategies aren't just for singers who want to perform on the professional stage. As I've mentioned on various occasions throughout this entire program, singing is about communicating a story. That's the bottom line, no matter who your audience is. It could be your mum or your partner, it could be your children or your closest friend, it could be your student or your teacher, it could be your local music group or an audience of millions of viewers from around the world. At the end of the day, the reason that we humans love music so much is because it communicates with some part of our inner self. We love music. We need music in our lives to help us make sense of the world around us. It helps us to get in touch with our emotions. It helps us to deal with our emotions. And it's the binding creative sound that connects us all. Music is universal. It's for everyone. So don't keep the music that's inside you all to yourself. It's a gift that you can give to others when you let go of the fear that holds you back from doing so. Think about it. Is there anything that is truly holding you back from sharing your voice with others? Your voice doesn't need money to operate. It doesn't need time to operate. It doesn't rely on anything other than your permission. My point is, if you're not singing for others and inspiring and entertaining and facilitating their personal human connection to music, then there is truly only one thing that's stopping you from doing that, and that's you. I've had so many singers tell me that they just want to sing for their own pleasure. But believe me, what they're really saying is, I love to sing, but right now, I'm too embarrassed to let anyone else hear me do it. So I want to get better so that I can sing anywhere and everywhere without fear of sounding bad, because I love it, you know? However, as soon as those people let go of the fear of rejection, their desire to sing for their own pleasure soon changes to one that sounds something like, I want to sing to the world, you know? So what is it that stops most people from singing? Quite simply, it's fear that stops them, not their inability to hold a tune. So during this lesson, I ask that you let go of all fear, because I can tell you now, you're not going to get it perfect first time, every time. You are going to make mistakes, so be prepared to learn from them. The reason that some people are more successful than others, and this applies to anything in life, not just singing, is because those who have more success have allowed themselves to make many more mistakes than those who haven't achieved success. It's a fact. If you want to succeed in your quest for a better sounding, better feeling voice, you must make mistakes. It's a requirement, it's essential, and it's inevitable. So make as many as you can and learn from them. This lesson is going to expose some of your fears about the way you see yourself, and also what your fears are about what others may think of you. But I urge you to ignore those thoughts that create those fearful feelings inside you. Push past the fears that stand guard at the edge of your comfort zone and just go for it. In addition to your technical practice, you need to practice performing, all right? The reason for this is fairly simple. Basically, you usually do your practice in a comfortable, familiar environment. You are free to make mistakes. In fact, as I mentioned in the previous lessons, you need to make mistakes. You're also free to stop whenever you like, to correct things like technique, posture, diction, expression, and choreography. However, in a performance situation, not only might you be feeling nervous and uncomfortable in an unfamiliar environment, but you're not really expected to stop if you make mistakes. For many singers, this is what contributes to feeling nervous. You only get one shot, and if you muck it up, you can't stop and do it again better. However, this particular issue needn't be an issue. Remember this next piece of advice. You will always perform that which you practice most. So if, during your practice session, you constantly allow yourself to stop when you make a mistake, then more often than not, you will do this during performance, or at the very least, you may hesitate and momentarily be distracted by whatever went wrong. So how to remedy this? Simple. Stop stopping, okay? Part of being a performer is having the ability to mask anything that hasn't gone to plan and being able to, under any reasonable circumstances, continue to deliver your story. There'll be plenty of time after your performance to review and refine your technique and your song. The story should always have priority. Being able to deliver it on the wings of a solid vocal technique is a bonus for both you and your audience. Now, I know it sounds like I'm saying your technique shouldn't be your main focus overall. It should. However, when you're on that stage, you must stay in character, regardless of what's going on technically. You see, and you would know this yourself, when we hear someone sing, we listen to the story of that song. Whether we hear their story through the words or through the sounds or the music is irrelevant. While we're listening, we think and feel the emotional content of that story, and we also play out that story in many different ways in our minds. Humans think in images. For example, if I mention the word refrigerator, what do you see in your mind's eye? The word refrigerator? No. You see an image of a refrigerator. When your audience hears your story, they'll be seeing images in their minds related to that story, and often seeing themselves in those images. In other words, they're imagining themselves as the protagonist or the main character in the story you're telling. If you suddenly stop or roll your eyes or, make it known to your audience that something's gone wrong, i.e. you come out of character, suddenly they're thrown out of the vortex of the story because you asked by your out of character actions for them to focus on something other than the story you were telling. Bottom line is, if you make a mistake, hide it. Okay, unless it's a really big one, and then just be graceful about it and move on quickly. Re-establish your character and continue the story. So how do you learn to do that? Simple. Practice it. Quite simple. It's important to dedicate some of your practice time to performance mastery. Once you've done your warm-ups and your tech work, practice implementing those techniques into your song. Then practice performing the song. All right? Use your mirror or your video camera as your audience, and whatever you do, don't stop or fiddle or roll your eyes or get distracted by a noise outside, or a thought about, what are you going to cook for dinner tonight? Just practice singing through your entire song as though it were a real life performance. If you make mistakes, no probs. Just make some mental notes and go over them after your performance. And just to finish up here, I want to tell you a very short story about an experiment that was done with 2 basketball teams. Kind of random. Okay, so all members of both teams, 2 basketball teams, all members of both teams were monitored whilst they shot a specific number or a specified number of baskets, at which point each player's score was recorded. Then the 2 teams were separated. One team was required to continue practicing shooting hoops over the next month. The other team was required to visualize shooting hoops over the next month without actually physically practicing it. Okay? After a month, the 2 teams were brought together again for testing, and the results were very interesting. All right? The team that had been practicing shooting baskets actually scored less. Even though they scored more overall than their first time through, they actually scored less than the team who had simply been visualizing shooting baskets. The relevance of this story to your singing is that when you practice performing, that's great, and you will get better at performing. However, when you practice and visualize yourself performing, your results will be far greater than practice alone. Don't leave your performance practice until you get on the stage. Do it every time you sing, and whilst you're doing it, imagine your audience in front of you and sing to them. Getting to know the stage and learning to deal with how it feels to be on it isn't something that occurs after just one performance. It takes repetitive performance experiences to understand how your mind, body, and voice react to that environment. These experiences also provide you with an opportunity to invent some strategic preparations that might be useful when it comes to your next performance. But this doesn't mean that you have to go out straight away and start performing on a stage. Performance experience can be gained in a multitude of environments. You can gain experience in as many different ways as you'll permit yourself. For example, sing at the bus stop when there's a few people around, okay? You might never see them again, which is also a bonus, but you may want to do it quietly, or you may want to sing out loud. Either way, you're performing in a new environment in front of people, an audience, who will no doubt be listening to you sing, albeit unavoidably. Or how about a song for your partner? Maybe just a casual tune in the kitchen while you're cooking the dinner, you know? What about the next time your kids are around or your parents are over for lunch? You could sing for a friend when you visit them for a chat or a coffee. You could also frequent the local karaoke club or an open mic night at a local cafe or social club. Or you could even perform at the local elderly person's home. They would love your singing, no matter how skilled or experienced you are. You would also have a guaranteed positive experience in that environment. Maybe you could make it a regular thing. My point is, don't limit yourself to just singing on a stage. Work your way up to that level. That's fine. You'll find that your technique and mental and emotional focus will develop much more rapidly the more experience you gain, and the feedback you'll no doubt get from others could quite well be useful. It usually is. Most people are very kind and forgiving, and they're eager to help you when you ask for feedback. If they're not, move on. You can choose your news, you know? But at the end of the day, the general public are your audience. So it's a great idea to keep an open mind and be prepared for people to tell you that you could improve on something. Big deal. It's great. You know, rather than taking it all to heart, externalize the feedback. They're talking about your voice, not you as a person. However, you should also be prepared for people to give you compliments. It's not all bad news, is it? When this happens, and it will, rather than saying something like, "Oh man, really? Oh, I so could have done that better," just say, "Thank you. I'm glad you like the song. Performance can be predictable, but only if you are mentally, physically, and vocally prepared. It's the fear of the unknown that makes us cringe at entering the stage. However, rather than let your fears take over, how about taking a different mental approach by thinking about what you're going to learn from the experience? You know, what you learn through performance is far more important than the fear you feel before doing it. So be an opportunist, right? And take advantage of any situation that may arise that offers the opportunity for you to sing for other people. Take a big breath and just say, yes. Feel the fear and do it anyway. That's what all performers who have come before you have done. It doesn't take a special kind of person to do it. Just someone who says yes to their singing. Part of becoming a well-rounded performer means that you need to develop some acting skills and also become aware of how you look on stage. A performer who walks onto the stage with rounded shoulders, face looking downward toward the floor, but who has the most technically brilliant voice, will often be outshone by a singer who comes out and emotionally embraces the audience but has an underdeveloped vocal technique. All right? The game of pretend is an important one to engage in as a singer and performer. Do you remember as a child playing a role in a game with friends at school? Did you ever get so engrossed in that role that you simply believed that you were that character? Did you forget about all else, including going to the toilet before the bell went? Role playing is such an enormous part of our learning when we're children. We placed ourselves in the minds of others, which taught us to empathize and strategize and grow intellectually and emotionally. As a singer, you'll need to, once again, draw on that skill. However, the role that you'll be playing in this game is that of a confident, professional, and highly skilled performer. Now, you may feel that these things are untrue, but why should it matter? Okay? Pretend that you are all of these things for long enough, and eventually you'll believe it. It's like a physical affirmation of sorts. Act out this affirmation or role or character with passion, and the results will show in everything that you do in your life. Later in this lesson, we're going to move on to the physical acting side of things, but there's more to stage presence than just your physical presence and presentation. The way you feel inside contributes immensely to the power of your stage presence. In fact, the emotion you carry onto the stage with you is the first thing that's communicated to your audience. But how can this be? How can they know how I feel if I'm like acting all confident and stuff, you ask? Well, I know a lot about humans because I happen to be one, in case you hadn't noticed, okay? And the one thing I know about humans is that we are emotional creatures. For example, have you ever walked into a room that contained other humans and just felt like there was tension in the air? No one said anything or gave you the secret nod or anything, but you just felt as though something had recently transpired that involved a lot of emotion. Now, this might sound a bit woo-woo, but it's true. It happens all the time. So what is it? How is it that we're able to pick up on these sorts of things? Why is it that when we meet someone for the first time, we decide, whether we're conscious of it or not, if we're going to let that person into our lives or not, whether we connect or not, you know? The fact is, and it's a scientific fact, mind you, that all things in existence are made up of constantly moving energy particles. That includes trees and grass, rocks, water, animals, and humans, and everything else you can and can't see. And it also includes your thoughts and emotions. I like to think of the word emotion as two words: emotion, energy in motion. So back to my original question of how is it that we're able to pick up on the events that have transpired in a room full of humans without knowing anything about what's been going on? The reason you can feel that something's not quite right when you walk into that room is because the emotions of the people in that room have a vibration which is being transmitted to us on an energetic level. Now, you can choose your news, remember? You don't have to believe me. However, it has been scientifically proven, and I'm sure your own experiences will add to that proof. So how does this relate to the connection between you as a singer and your audience? I'm guessing you already know what I'm going to say here. Quite simply, your audience is ideally going to be made up of humans who also have the same faculty which enables them to pick up on the energy being transmitted via your emotions. All right? In simple terms, they feel what you feel. That's why it's so incredibly important to personally experience the story you're telling as you're telling it. With regard to stage presence on the energetic level, it's really important to deliberately choose what emotional presence you want to carry onto the stage with you. Again, how do you want to affect your audience? Do you want them to trust you? If so, then you need to begin to trust yourself. You need to find a way to love yourself. You need to find a way to think positively about all aspects of yourself so that you can feel positively about all aspects of yourself. When you feel this, your audience will have no choice but to feel the same way about you. Remember, you cannot give away that which you don't already possess yourself. Okay, so far we've looked at how you present yourself as a personality and as an energetic being. But what about the more superficial presentation of you, such as what should you wear to a performance? Well, much like the emotions you use during your performance need to match the content of the story you're telling, the clothes you wear also need to match the character you're playing. For example, if I'm singing an operatic aria, I probably wouldn't turn up to my performance wearing something like this. Just give me a sec. I'm going to sing O mio bambino caro. O mio bambino caro. Okay? Now, not only is my clothing not matching the song I'm singing, but my attitude or personality presentation is also not a match. It'd be much more appropriate and in sync, like so cool right now. It would be in sync with my performance if I were to come out dressed and acting like this. Give me a sec. Hi, my name's Rae Henry and I'd like to sing for you O mio bambino caro. O mio bambino caro. Okay? Can you see how this is a much better fit? So, what if I was performing a jazz song? Maybe I could turn up in something like this. Just give me a sec. Okay, let's go everybody. Thanks for coming. Okay, this is summertime. Summertime, and the living is easy. Is this working for you here? Nah, it's not working for me either. It'd be much more appropriate and in sync with my performance if I were to come out dressed and acting like this. Give me a sec. So I'd like to sing you one of my favourites. This is Summertime. Summer time, and the living is easy. Okay, now this works, yeah? Much better. Okay, oh, I got it. I'm going to sing a pop song, okay? I'll just put on the right clothes and I'll be right back. Stay there. Hey, me hearties, I'm going to sing a little shanty for you, and it goes like this. And I will always love you. Okay, what? No good? It's no good, Dale.
Oh, never mind, Ray. You look very special.
Okay. Man, we got to work on your acting skills, bro. All right, try and take me seriously for just a moment, okay? Now, although I was mucking around there, you get the point. You need to give great thought to how you can combine the story you're telling with the emotions and actions you tell it with. So you also need to decide upon the character you're portraying and wear clothing that matches that character. Strictly speaking, if you have a performance in which you'll be singing a whole range of different styles of music, choose something that works with every song. For example, the little black number I had on when I sang the jazz song just before could go well with a performance that included songs from all three genres, opera, jazz and pop. However, I'd probably go with a pair of black pants or something if I was doing a lot of dancing around the stage in the pop song, because a classic long black skirt doesn't look very cool when you're like busting a move, So get creative, all right? If you want to change costumes throughout your performance and your environment allows for that, then do it. Just make sure you go backstage first, right? Man, I'm going there now because this pirate stuff is killing me. Most singers believe that their performance begins when they start singing. However, the truth is that you're performing as soon as you set foot on that stage. And so, it's important to already be in character as you come on. So if you're doing a cool song, act cool and relaxed, If you're doing a high energy song, come on with high energy, either run or jump or skip or whatever suits the style of music you're singing. If you're performing a more refined style, such as classical, come on gracefully, etc., etc. All right? And then introduce yourself in a way that aligns with that character. For example, if I'm going to sing a sentimental song, I'm probably not going to come on stage like this. Hi peeps, how are y'all doing? Yeah! I heard there was a secret chord. Huh? It'd be more in alignment with the song I'm about to sing if I come on acting more like this. Hey guys, how are you all doing? Awesome. So This is a song that's very close to my heart, and I hope it gets close to yours too. I heard there was a secret chord. Okay? Notice how that was more authentically aligned with the sentimental story of the song I was singing. Again, we're going to line everything up, our vocal execution, our emotions, our character, and our presentation. You know, the other thing you want to take into consideration when you come on stage is how you speak when you introduce yourself. It's so common to hear singers come on stage and introduce themselves like this. Hi, my name's Rae and I want to sing this song with the harmony line. Did you get that? Did you understand what I said? Not really, huh? Okay then, how about this? Hi, my name's Rae and I just want to sing Hallelujah for you because it's one of my favourite songs. I really hope you like it. Did you catch me that time? Again, I just wasn't clear enough. Don't get me wrong. You don't want to have to speak with eloquent diction like this. But you do have to speak clearly enough so that your audience understands what you've said. After all, if you're going to speak or sing for that matter, why wouldn't you want your audience to understand you? It's really important to practice this, especially if you naturally speak really fast or without crisp consonants, which is fine, by the way. I'm not judging that at all. But when it comes to performance, it's in your best interests to help your audience as much as possible to understand and therefore have the opportunity to connect with you and the story you're telling. Lastly, at the end of your performance, it's always really gracious of you to thank your audience and to take a bow or somehow display your gratitude for their appreciation of you. Okay, so when I'm talking about taking a bow, for instance, I'm not talking about this kind of thing. Right? It's just too theatrical and old school, okay? All you need to do is simply show your thanks for their applause by either nodding your head, or if you're doing a more theatrical or classical performance, something like that would do. Or you could just say thanks or thank you, or even add to that by saying, thanks guys, you're awesome, have a great night, you know, and then leave the stage in character. Remember, for the entire time you are on that stage, you are performing. So remember to add this to the performance practice section of your practice sessions. Okay, let's move on to some movement and action. Okay, in the next couple of sessions, we're going to look at a few simple things you can do with your physical body to help transmit the emotional content of your story to your audience. And we're going to start with your eyes. Have you ever heard the saying, the eyes are the window to the soul? What this saying is referring to is that a person's eyes give clues as to what they're thinking and feeling. For example, if a person smiles with just their mouth, you can tell that the smile is false or forced. However, when the person is really feeling happy or smiley, it shows through their eyes. And that's the key right there. When you're really feeling what it is you're singing about, it'll be apparent in the shape and vibrancy of your eyes, and also in the physical direction in which they're pointed. Close your eyes for a moment. Take a few deep breaths and just relax and center yourself. Now imagine as though you're singing about the sky, and you're looking up at the clouds and watching them float gently across the sky. Can you see it? Now think about soft, cool, green grass beneath your feet. Can you see it? Wriggle your toes and feel the blades of grass between them. Okay, you can open your eyes. In most cases, when I asked that you close off all other distractions from your outside environment by closing your eyes and really focus on and imagine the sky, for instance, in most cases, your eyes will have moved upward behind your eyelids. Am I right? And then, still without distraction, still having your eyes closed, you began to imagine the grass beneath your feet. What happened to your eyes then? Did they stay looking up? In most cases, they will have moved into a lower position underneath your eyelids. My point is, you were focusing on the images of the story I was telling, and your eyes followed the direction of those images. This is exactly the skill you need to learn as a singer when you're telling your story. You need to be able to block out all other distractions from your mind and your environment and just focus on the story you're telling. When you sing about the sky, see it in your mind and then project what you're seeing in your mind out through your eyes. If you're seeing the sky in your mind, your eyes would naturally be looking towards the sky. Okay? For example, birds flying high, you know how I feel. All right? However, there's a fine line between natural gesture and theatrical gesture. And when I say theatrical in this context, I mean overdone. For example, if I gestured every idea with my eyes, I might look something like this. Birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Okay? As you can see straight away, this greatly diminishes the authenticity of the story I'm telling, because I normally wouldn't do this when I'm talking, right? I'd be much more natural, maybe something like this. Birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. All right. Then there's the other end of the spectrum where, you know how when we talk, sometimes we can be looking around, not looking at the person we're talking to, or thinking about something else while we're talking. In performance, if you do this, it might look something like this. Birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Alright? So, see how my eyes were unfocused? They were flitting around and generally showing that I was not emotionally connected to the story I was telling. Your aim is to balance the gestures you use, i.e., don't use your eyes and body to describe every word you're saying, but then again, don't say nothing with your eyes and body. And the most important things are to be aware of what your eyes are doing when you're singing and to deliberately use them to describe what you're feeling inside and what you're singing about. So something like this would be much more authentic and engaging. Birds flying high, eyes are up looking at the sky. You know how I feel. Come back gently and look at your audience. Sun in the sky. All right, you might keep that face, look over that way. Sun in the sky. You know how I feel. Come back to your audience, okay? Okay, so what about your hands? How can you best use them to describe the story you're telling? Well, much like we just discussed when we're working with your eyes, you don't want to be too theatrical with your movements, you know? For instance, if I was singing Someone Like You, there's no need for me to do this. I peer through windows, watch life go by, dreamed of tomorrow, but stayed inside. Okay? Believe it or not, this is a really common mistake that many singers make when they first start working with their bodies to tell the story. They try to act out every single word or idea they're singing, and it's truly not necessary or practical or authentic. Again, at the other end of the spectrum, you often see beginner singers freeze up in performance and do something like this. I peer through windows, watch life go by, dreamed of tomorrow, but stayed inside. Okay? Another way that singers make it obvious that they're either feeling nervous or simply concentrating on other things when they're storytelling is when they're fiddling with their shirt or their skirt, or they have concentration face on like I just had. Yeah? Or you often see singers doing this. I peer through windows, watch life go by. All right? This one is a really common one because what do we do when we're afraid? Oh my God. All of the feelings and emotions we experience are physically felt in specific parts of our bodies. For example, if you're feeling the love, you might do this. Oh, I love that so much. Okay, hand on chest, you're feeling it, your heart, If you're feeling angry, you might do this. God, why don't they understand? All of this sort of stuff, If we're feeling sad, we might do this. All right? I had this weird thing that used to happen when I first started singing on the classical stage, where my hand would randomly come up when I started singing. So I'd be singing away and all of a sudden, for no storytelling reason, my hand would just come up and sit beside me, Was possessed, I tell ya. Had a mind of its own. Now, in order for me to stop doing that, I had to give my hand something else to do. So I began assigning jobs for it. When I sing this word, I want you to do that. When I sing this phrase, I want you to do that. Okay? And so on and so forth. In other words, I had to practice the gestures I wanted my hands to perform so that they wouldn't just be doing their own thing, yeah? And this is where I repeat what I've said earlier. You perform that which you practice most. So prior to choreographing my hand gestures, during my practice, I'd just be letting my hands do whatever they felt like, which was, this. And so, that's exactly what they did when I performed, because that's exactly what they'd been practicing doing. Are you really seeing the benefits of practice and planning now? So ideally, you want to use the same concept we touched on when we talked about your eyes, and that is striking a balance between words that you use your hands for to emphasize and those that are best left unaccompanied by gesture. An example might be this. I peer through windows, watch life go by. So I'm focusing in the distance there, yeah? It's so far away. See what my hand is doing? I peer through windows. There it is in front of me. And then watch life go by. Dreamed of tomorrow, but stayed inside. So my hands are saying here, right here, I stayed right here, I stayed inside. All right? Notice how it wasn't overdone and that I only gestured on some of the words. And at times, the gestures I was using were just hints or suggestions of what I was feeling. I just want to say here that learning how to gesture and look and feel natural while you're doing it, takes time and practice. It's also a trial and error process. On stage, you need to know what you look like, whether the actions you're using work or look natural or not. And again, this is where recording yourself with a video camera of some sort is extremely important. So you need to record yourself performing during your practice sessions and then watch that video back. It's simple, really. Keep what works, change what doesn't. You know, so many singers come out on stage or perform during their lessons and their actions are all over the place. Sometimes they're overdone, sometimes they're underdone, you know, and sometimes they just plain don't make sense with the words they're singing. And then again, at times, their gestures are making sense, but they're such small gestures that they'd hardly be detectable by someone sitting in the back row, for instance. As a performer, you need to be larger than life. What this means is that the gestures you make in normal conversation, see why I'm talking to you here, you know, it's all fairly small, but the gestures you make in normal conversation, in performance, they need to be slightly emphasized or made bigger, hence the term larger than life. So when we do stuff like this, I peer through windows, watch life go by, dreamed of tomorrow, but stayed inside, right? Notice how my elbows were like stuck to my side, and also how my hands were not open or giving, all right? If you're inviting someone to take your hand or come with you somewhere, what do? In most cases, you extend your whole arm, right? It's the same with performance, only you add a hint of drama when you're inviting your audience to come with you into the story you're telling. So instead of this, I peer through windows, watch life go by, dreamed of tomorrow, but stayed inside. All right? You might do something like this. I peer through windows, watch life go by, dreamed of tomorrow, but stayed inside. All right? So go through your lyrics and decide what actions you could use on specific words. Watch other people perform. You know, go YouTubing and watch what the professionals do and take ideas from them. And most of all, remember that your body is just as much a part of your performance and storytelling as your voice. So use it. Okay, I just want to give you some quick tips on how you can best use the stage during your storytelling session, okay? So firstly, when you're on the stage, you want to be sure that you angle yourself so that you're open to your audience and that they can see your face. So there are a few things you need to take into consideration here. For instance, if you're sitting on a stool, here's one I prepared earlier, okay? So if I'm sitting on a stool and I'm angled this way and I'm looking this way, right? So can you see my face properly? No. So how about I turn my head like this, okay? Can you see me properly now? Do I look comfortable and natural? No. Okay, so I'd probably want to angle myself. I don't need to be front on. I'd probably want to angle myself like this, right? This way, not only can you see me properly and see what my face is doing, but I also look and feel more comfortable. Now, you might have a slightly different way of positioning yourself in terms of posture, but you get the general idea. Okay, so while we're on the topic of being seated on stage, what about if I've got a guitar on my lap? So here's one I prepared earlier. Okay. Now, before we go any further, I totally understand that we all have our own style of playing. Mine is badly, all right? But what I'm actually referring to is the way you hold your guitar. So this is more of a technical thing, more so than having something to do with your angle. Just make sure when you're playing that you don't slouch over your guitar too much, right? There are a couple of reasons for this. Number one, your audience can't see your face, right? And number two, it'll affect your vocal technique. So as much as you can, try to position yourself so that you're more upright, all right? For instance, instead of having both my feet resting on the frame of the stool, it'd probably work better for me and my audience if I were to have one resting on the stool and the other placed on the floor. Not only does this help me sit more upright, but it's also a more stylish way to position your guitar. Okay, same goes for you pianists out there. Unfortunately, I couldn't get my piano up the stairs today, so you just have to imagine it in front of me. Sorry. Okay, so obviously, you'll be sitting on a piano stool. So make sure that you're sitting upright so that your technique isn't hindered in any way. It's also a great idea, whether you're a guitarist or a pianist, to sit more forward on the edge of your stool with your hips tilted very slightly forward if it's possible. So instead of sitting like this, right back on the stool, okay, just move forward a little on your stool and tilt your hips forward. It opens all this area up. You see how it opens my body up a bit more? Right. Often when you're singing in live performance, you'll be using a mic. Now here's one I prepared earlier, okay? Oh, it's got funny legs. Okay. So I'll just give you a couple of really quick tips to rough you in on how to use a mic if you've never done so before. So the first thing you want to do is make sure it's turned on. Obviously, okay? You'd be surprised at how many singers come on stage and start speaking without first checking if their mic is on. It can be awkward for you, So there are two easy ways to check if your mic is on. If someone's handing you the mic, okay, just pretend someone's handing me, don't assume it's on, even if they've just finished speaking, right? Because some people trip out and out of habit, they flick the switch to off once they've finished introducing you or whatever. So as they hand you the mic, very gently run your fingernail over the ball part that you speak into before you speak into it, and listen for a scratching sound that will come through the speakers. If you hear it, great, mic's on. If not, go to step 2, all right? Okay, step 2, look for a switch that's often on the stem of the mic and check whether it's in the on or off position. I feel like someone from IKEA or something. Obviously, if it's off, flick the switch, okay? If the switch is in the on position, just trust that it is in fact on and that you may not have scratched your fingernail, across the top hard enough. Okay, there is actually a third step, but it's more of a backup plan. If you speak into the mic after all that, and for whatever reason, the sound guy has turned it off or turned it down, stay calm and be gracious and professional. Try not to giggle like a teenager, and whatever you do, don't throw a tantrum like a 3-year-old. Be professional. Signal the sound guy and wait for a response, all right? Your audience is much more patient than you might think. They'll understand. Okay, next, holding the mic while you're singing. As you may know, mics pick up everything you say into them and nothing you don't say into them. So if you're moving your head around while you're singing, that microphone needs to stay right in front of your mouth. Okay? Granted, some mics are much more sensitive than others, but to be on the safe side, especially if you're using a mic you've never used before, keep it in front of your mouth whenever you're singing. Okay? Otherwise, you'll get something like this. Someone like you found someone like me, and suddenly nothing would ever... Okay, you can hear it's warping, right? Okay, so the other thing you should know is that if you're singing a song that has a wide range of vocal dynamics involved, you need to adjust the distance that you hold the mic from your mouth. So if I'm singing fairly quietly, I'd hold the mic pretty close to my mouth like this. I heard there was a secret chord that David played and it pleased the Lord. Alright? However, if I'm doing a big high note or I'm singing a crescendo or something and I leave the mic in that position, listen to what happens. It goes like this, the fourth, the fifth, the minor fall, and the major lift. Alright? So, it distorts. So instead of keeping the mic close to my mouth, I need to pull it further away from those bigger or higher or more powerful notes like this. It goes like this, the fourth, the fifth, the minor fall, and the major lift. Okay? The other thing is, when working with a mic, is how it can affect your gesturing. For example, if you hold the mic in your right hand for your entire performance, a couple of things are going to happen. One, you're only going to have the left hand available for gesturing. And two, you could be masking yourself or closing your body off to your audience while you're moving around the stage. However, both of these issues can be easily avoided. For example, if I'm walking this way and my mic is in front of my body is no longer open to my audience and I lose a sense of connection with them. However, if I change hands, suddenly I'm more open and I'm providing variety in the hands I'm using for gesturing. But what if I'm just standing still? If you're planning on performing your song from just one area of the stage, then it's important to still mix it up in terms of which hand you're holding the mic with and which hand you're gesturing with. So in a song like Hallelujah, I might sing the opening phrase with the mic in my right hand like this. I heard there was a secret chord that David played and it pleased the Lord. Alright? And then when I sing, but you don't really care for music, do ya? Alright? So I might just casually change hands. So what have we got? David played and pleased the Lord, but you don't really care for music, do ya? Oh. Alright? Again, be sure that you don't overdo it and change hands all the time because it's distracting for your audience and simply makes you look unsettled or insecure. Okay? It's like when we're nervous. Some of us tend to fiddle, and this is what changing your mic hand all the time can be perceived as nervous fiddling. So finally, how are you holding the mic? If I'm singing a classical song, do you think that holding the mic like this fits? Mio bambino caro, mi piace più. You get it. So probably not, yeah? All right. So in this case, something like this would fit better, where I delicately caress the microphone, okay? The former handling of the mic would be better suited to more contemporary songs and performances, okay? Remember, you've got to coordinate all areas of your mental, emotional, vocal, and physical performance to suit the style you're singing in. When it comes to moving around the stage, you really need to understand why you're moving around. One of the most common things I see students do when they're first finding their way around moving their bodies and using the space is this. Oh, freedom is mine, and I know how I feel. It's a new day, it's a new dawn, it's a new life. All right? So see how I was just moving for the sake of moving? It looked as though someone had told me that it was a good idea to use the stage, so that's what I was doing. But I had absolutely no reason to be doing it, or at the very least, my movements weren't coordinated with the lyrics I was singing. It would work much better if I did something like this. Oh, freedom is mine, and I know how I feel. It's a new day, it's a new dawn, it's a new life. All right? So in order to look as though you know what you're doing and not just randomly moving around the stage, oh, shiny, let's go over there. Oh, shiny, let's go over there. All right, then you need to plan out what you're going to do and when you're going to do it. Now, it's important to understand that over time, you'll be able to think on your feet a lot more and you won't need to plan out every move you make. But for now, if you're just getting used to moving about, plan it. Having said that, when you have rehearsed and planned and practiced, it's easy to get on stage and just go through the motions. For example, let's take the song Feeling Good again. Now, when I sing, oh, freedom is mine and I know how I feel. All right, I want to be standing in the one spot and I'm going to bend my knees and stuff to show that I'm really involved, right? That's what I've decided, okay? Now, when I get to the part that goes, it's a new day, it's a new dawn, it's a new life, okay, I'm going to walk over this way. Then, when I get over here, I'm going to stop again and do my whole knee bending thing and finish. So if I were simply going through the motions of doing that, this is what it might look like. Oh, freedom is mine, and I know how I feel. It's a new day, it's a new dawn, it's a new life. It's a new day, it's a new dawn, etc., etc. Notice how it was unnatural. It looked forced or rehearsed, yeah? Okay, so I need to loosen up a little and make it look as though it's spontaneous, like this. Oh, freedom is mine, and I know how I feel. It's a new day, it's a new dawn, it's a new life. It's a new day, it's a new dawn. Okay, better? Okay, so again, you need to record yourself so that you can see what you're going to look like on stage. I just can't emphasize this enough. You have to do it, okay? So another trick you can use is the 4-step rule. The 4-step rule goes like this. If you're going to move, don't take any less than 4 steps. So often I see singers doing this sort of thing. It's a new day, it's a new dawn, it's a new life for me, and I feel, etc. Right? So basically, this rule works hand in hand with the rule of moving deliberately to another part of the stage. You need to understand when and why you're moving, and you need to make it apparent to your audience that the spot over there, okay, is a much better spot to deliver the next section of your story from than where you're standing right now. Your audience will be less confused as to why this spot is better than this one here. However, they will be confused when you try to convince them that this spot is better than this one. You get the picture? If you're going to move, don't take any less than 4 steps. 4 steps looks deliberate. 2 steps looks like you're nervous. Okay, so that's just a few choreographic pointers you can practice as you're planning for your next performance. All right, you're feeling a bit looser now that you have some strategies to work with in performance? For most people, the most difficult hurdle to jump when it comes to performance is the decision to do it and then follow through on that. The rest is strategy and planning, and that's it. The key to a great performance is all in the planning. Planning helps to alleviate the nerves you might otherwise be feeling if you enter the stage unprepared. As I mentioned earlier in the lesson, visualization is a powerful tool that can not only help you with your success as a performer, but it can also be used to increase your level of confidence and should be part of your preparation for performance. For example, if you can allocate a small amount of time each day to visualize your success as a performer, your brain will begin to associate your performance experiences with success. After all, most of our fears lie in the anticipation of something going wrong. So if your brain is wired to anticipate the success of your performance, you're going to feel much better and much more confident heading into your performances in general. The fact is, you are never going to feel completely relaxed about going out onto the stage. So if you're waiting till you feel ready, you're never going to do it. Nerves are a part of being a performer. Only difference between where you might be right now and where all the experienced performers are is that they've learned how to deal with those nerves. They still feel the fear, but they do it anyway. That's how they became experienced performers. Nerves aren't so bad anyway. They often give you that extra level of energy and adrenaline that helps to keep your performances sparkling and vibrant. So use them to your advantage. Okay, this is a really, really exciting point in the program because in the next lesson, we're going to draw on and bring together everything that we've learned in this program and implement it into a song. In the meantime, go practice and prepare. This is Rae Henry, and happy singing.